Welcome everyone to the panel on consumer experience of entertainment and content and services. My name is Ira Rubenstein with Sony Pictures Digital. I want to thank Victor for putting together today's terrific panel. We seem to be missing one panelist, and hopefully he'll come halfway through, Michael Grasso. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the panel. Today there will be no PowerPoint speaking on the consumer experience. Instead, we're going to have an informal roundtable discussion, actually very vertical discussion or horizontal, depending. And I encourage our guests today to ask questions of each other. We'll have questions from the audience and really have a discussion about where we are today in this world in the consumer experience. As we've all seen, there's been a tremendous explosive growth of video over the internet the last several months. And many of you who've been in this space for many years probably have seen this growth. It's kind of the promised land coming, whether it's user-generated content, repurposed Hollywood content, or even busted pilots. All that video is finding its way to the internet. And the questions we'll talk about today are how do old media companies adopt? Do they matter? And how do older internet companies adopt and handle this explosive growth? And the companies up here, we're going to discuss how they're planning and getting ready to leverage this new broadband and video. In the world where we live today, where the consumer is now doing their own programming and pulling in and pulling down their own content, whether it's professional or user-generated, how are we going to adapt for that? So I'm going to start by introducing our panelists. Immediately to my right is Jennifer Peiken, Director of Video and Multimedia Search Partnerships for Google Video. Jennifer manages the partnerships with Google Video content providers and industry organizations, and she drives the development of the product. She joined Google from AOL Time Warner Strategic Development, and prior to AOL, she worked in Hollywood in theatrical business affairs at 20th Century Fox, Fox Searchlight, and Morgan Creek. Next to Jennifer is John Penny, who's the Vice President of New Media Business Planning for HBO. John joined HBO in August 2003. Before joining HBO, he worked as Executive Vice President of Licensing and Business Development for ACTV, overseeing the development and licensing of technologies and intellectual property for interactive television, personal computer, wireless data, and mobile computing. Prior to that, he worked at Scient, and prior to that, he worked at Viacom. John's been in this space for many years. Next to him is Lewis Henderson. Lewis runs all digital media for William Morris, one of the major agencies in Hollywood. He's been there for now 14 years, and I just heard today he's actually started in the mailroom, the classic agent training ground. And he is one of the leading agents in Hollywood who understands the digital media space and represents many, many clients. Next to him is Chad Hurley. Chad is the CEO and co-founder of YouTube, a company that started in only 2005, February 2005. Chad's responsible for guiding YouTube's trajectory into one of the most highly trafficked websites, serving billions of videos around the world. He's also in the process of building out a world-class sales and marketing and management team to cement YouTube's position as the leading video entertainment destination. His goal for the company is to keep the process of watching and sharing videos effortless for everyone. And he is responsible for the clean and simple interface that lets the community easily interact and share videos across the globe and also behind YouTube's distinctive logo. Prior to YouTube, Chad was also a user-face designer at PayPal, where he played a fundamental role in the early development and design of that service, including that logo. Next to Chad is where Michael's going to be sitting if he joins us. Just real brief, Michael is responsible for Assistant Vice President of Consumer Marketing for AT&T UVerse and is overseeing that launch. It's a new service for high-speed internet, and hopefully he'll come. And then next to at the end is Joe Michaels. Joe is the Director of Business Development, Entertainment, and Video Services for Microsoft Networks, MSN. He's charged with the ramp-up of strategic growth and entertainment-related partnerships for the MSN network and its customers. MSN.com is a world leading and delivering compelling programmed content experiences to consumers. Joe drives entertainment deals and opportunities covering MSN video, movies, and TV, and other areas of entertainment. He's been at Microsoft since 2001, and his previous position was business development for MSN Video. And previous to that, he's been with Major League Baseball, Mark Burnett Productions, and Neo Exchange Corporation. So that is our group. As you can see, we have a terrific group across many different spaces, from traditional Hollywood to, I would say, new entertainment spaces. And before we get into all that, because the topic of today is really the consumer, I want to just throw out a question to the panel. What is, because everyone's been in this space, what is the biggest consumer lesson you have learned in your years of being in the entertainment and video, and how have you applied it to one of your services? Anyone can go first.
Well, I guess I'll start. What we're seeing in our space is that really what's driving people to put content online is to be seen. Beyond monetary rewards, it's really what's driving people to engage and with new video services. And we've been fortunate to be in a position where we have the largest audience, and that's really creating a lot of natural network effects for us. We have the largest audience because we've created the largest library of content, and really when people are making that decision to put a piece of content online, they want to get it on YouTube to get it in front of that large audience.
I think I would add just, a lot of us have worked in this space for a while, but when video first came, the user experience was terrible. And I think now we've seen that, obviously, with the technology over the last several years, it's gotten so much better, and so it's not a surprise, I think, to most people who've been in this business for a long time, that in 2000, 2001, when there was kind of this, everyone wanted it, but it just wasn't ready for prime time yet. And I think now we've seen with the technology and further distribution that there's plenty of room for it. The consumer experience is good, and so that's what's taking off. And I think what we're seeing even in the mobile space is it's not quite the best consumer experience, but we expect that to kind of be the same as the internet, and that in the next 2 to 3 years, that video platform will become more viable, and the consumer experience will be much better. And we see tremendous growth the same way we did with internet.
I would say that the consumer experience that we've seen is that the consumers know what they want best, much more than I think any of us do initially. And what we've really tried to do is look at what does comprehensive mean to a user. There's many different things that a user wants to do. A user is a different person at different times of the day, doing different activities. Sometimes it's about user-generated content. Other times they really want to consume premium content, or they might want to find out about a documentary or a travelogue where they might be headed, or they might have how-to needs such as, how do I cook a turkey on Thanksgiving? So it's really about what does the user want at different times and different activities. It's not like a user is doing only one activity, and to that end, what we've really learned is it's not about a destination. It's about giving the user what they want, where they are on any part of the internet or on any device. So it's about distributing that content. It's about bringing content online through monetization, so you can get the user what they want on any part of the internet and in the future on any device.
So does that mean it's really less about programming? I mean, for John, who does programming day in and day out and other traditional networks, I mean, MSN's calling yourself a network, your Google Video, are you doing less programming to consumers and really just offering it out to them? Or is YouTube, are you doing programming at all? Or is it really, here it is, and I'm going to give you the best way to find what you want?
Yeah, I mean, you're just empowering the users not only to have a new outlet for distribution, but really relying on the community to define what's entertaining. And that's different than previous kind of video models where they were defining up front what was entertaining to the community. So just by the users having a chance to interact with this content and find what they want to watch, those pieces of content rise to the top.
Although I can say that from MSN's perspective, programming is very important. We've worked very hard to choose an array of content providers that we think our users will like. Some of them you'd expect: news, sports, weather, entertainment. some of them we've had to be very creative and you know, lifestyle and other things you can't easily fit into a category, but users may want. So we're the biggest lesson I think we found is in figuring out how to program things appropriately. Is it by day part? Or is it, do you take into account whether people are at work or at home, and also how you weave advertising into it? That's been a big question for us, and something that we've learned a lot about.
Okay, John.
I guess I'm from the oldest media company up here. Not that William Morris is not a media
We're
company,
108
but
years old.
I really do feel finally old. I guess I'm entering middle age. But I guess from an HBO perspective, what we've learned is that the consumer is not the consumer. It's a lot of different consumers, and they have very different interests and needs in the entertainment sense of that word. Many of the folks who are on the panel and who are bringing this future to us all have platforms that provide far more than entertainment capability, distribution capability. They provide communications capability, and when you put the two together, you get something brand new. From our perspective, what I think we see is that ultimately professionally produced content is a major component of what will be in the future an anytime, anywhere environment that we've all sort of been talking about, or we've heard described, most specifically Jennifer, I think, did a great job of talking about the user in different day parts. But frankly, I think that it's like any of us maybe in the audience who are on the older side who use, you know, the Wall Street Journal online or the New York Times online or Wired or whatever it might be. That's professionally produced content. It's not the Wikipedia of video. It's, you know, it's literally, you know, minds that are very well trained in doing what they do, bringing stuff that you might be interested in into one nice rubric, curated, edited, however you want to call it. So for HBO, we fit into that realm, and we would like to be working as closely as possible with user-generated content, with professionally produced content, and the intersection of the two to make an entertainment experience that's far more relevant than it's been in the past, but also is compelling on a narrative or non-narrative basis emotionally for consumers. And those, again, consumers are very different from each other. We might call them the consumer. Not really the case. So that's where we want to be, and we're starting to do some really interesting things we can talk about later about that.
Let me follow up on that. So if I understand correctly, HBO wants to get into user-generated content. Now, is that user-generated content around its existing brands, or is it more like what YouTube is doing or hosting in terms of, could be anything?
Well,
like
to be specific, and maybe, you know, other people on the panel can pick up on this, we have content that is ultimately, we believe, some of the most water cooler content available. I mean, people still like to talk about what happened on The Sopranos last night, or if you're an Entourage fan, or you know, a Big Love fan. And the notion that you can start, you know, crossing professionally produced content with a community online who may in the old days have been participating in chat rooms that migrated to, you know, listservs, then it migrated to, you know, online communities working, you know, in various technological avenues. Being able to now do it with video and rich media content, so you saw something like Lazy Sunday lead to Lazy Monday. If you saw that SNL short that then led to you know, a bunch of people producing their own, that's where it's really exciting, because the medium is not only an expression, the medium of video is not only a method of expressing a narrative conceit, it's also a way of personally expressing who you are. So that's the really neat cross here, where we could start to do things with major tentpole pieces of content, like they call it in Hollywood, like The Sopranos, or, you know, something maybe more bubbling up like Entourage. Then have you all contribute video, audio, even textual or rich media content, and, you know, have it sort of come together in an interesting, you know, sort of play off of each other, and that would be really great.
Ira, let me just add that, in my opinion, user-generated content is incredibly exciting, and it's incredibly fresh right now, and it's something everyone's talking about. But the fact is, the entertainment community, the people who are extremely good at creating content with high production values and really thinking about how to create these narrative arcs, they've only just begun to bring their talents to the online space. And I think user-generated video will continue to be hot. But when you see the greats in the entertainment industry turn their attention to the broadband space, I think user-generated content may fall off a bit in terms of its exciting value.
I would add that we're seeing a little bit of both. I mean, in representing 2,000 plus content creators, we're seeing some of our own content creators take advantage of user-generated. There's plenty of starving artists out there that feel like they have something to build and to create, and they want people to see it. And obviously, places like YouTube and Google and MSN and others have created opportunities to do that. But we're also seeing that whether from the traditional media companies who are getting into this space as well as some of the new players, there is a programming initiative, and they've come to us with very specific ideas as to how they want to program their so-called networks, and we have clients that are creating for that. So it's exciting for us just because in working with the talent, the more opportunities a talent has to create something and put it out and have lots of people see it, it begins a process. If it works, then it's something they can convert to a television show or to a feature, or if it exists and it's just great online, that's great as well. I think we're going to see some of those things really pop here in the next year, where some of our clients are creating things specifically for this medium that they don't really intend to move elsewhere.
So Louis, does that mean that people like John, myself, studios who traditionally, quote unquote, been gatekeepers to creating professional content, talent makes pitches, we say yes, we say no, don't always get to say a lot of yeses because there's costs involved.
More no's than yeses.
Right, but does that mean that the new networks are Jennifer here at Google and Chad at YouTube and Joe at MSN, are they quote unquote new networks because they're aggregating eyeballs, or is it so fragmented that there is no quote unquote network anymore because people are finding what they want?
Yeah, I do believe that, you're going to find some leaders here in the entertainment content space. And I think we've always seen this every time there's been a new medium. There's been, new names pop up and new companies that come in and take advantage of it. And that's what I think we're seeing here. So I think it's a mix. I think, we're going to continue to see, the traditional media companies, and we're going to continue to try to do a ton of business with you, but we're also seeing some of these, new players come up that are also very interested in, working with our talent. So I see it both ways.
And I think both sides are still trying to figure it out in terms of personal producers and professional. And it just gives everyone a new outlet for distribution. And this is a very early on in the game in terms of people having these options to get in front of a new audience. So we really see this market as where digital photography was a few years ago. More and more people are just starting to have access to lots of devices that have video capabilities, and people are just starting to become comfortable with the editing tools that they have available to them on their desktop. So, over the years to come, the quality is going to be improving, and what Hollywood is always going to bring to the table is great content. That's never going to go away, but there's just going to be more content coming online.
I think monetization is also going to be key, though. In terms of what is a network and what are the features of networks. Is Google a network? Is YouTube a network? I think it goes back again to distribution and monetization. It should be sort of where users want to be. It may be that users want to be on HBO's site. It may be at different times they're at MSN, they are at Google, but they also could be at several publisher websites out there that have nothing to do with video, but have to do with the political topic that they're really interested in, or something about gardening that they're really interested in. The video, the appropriate video can be distributed to those particular web pages with monetization. Then what is a network? Then at that point, it's really just about having video be information, the same as any type of information you may read on a web page, or the same as anything you might hear or see. It's just another piece of information. So the idea of a network, to my mind, becomes an extremely distributed model as long as monetization can follow it. And that's what Google's trying to work on right now.
Well, I agree with that, but I'll also say that I think one of the things the TV networks bring to the TV world is there are only so many companies that can attract enough eyeballs and be powerful enough advertisers to create big, exciting events that bring large audiences together. And I think that's going to happen in some ways online as well. Even though you have a massive distributed network and people may go watch, a cooking video, or they may watch someone lighting themselves on fire on, a user-uploaded site. I think there will also be lots of exciting programming coming with the new online networks who are able to make those big events happen.
And networks also bring the best experience in terms of quality. We don't feel, see ourselves as replacing a network. It's more of a promotional tool that really does drive people back to enjoying the best experience, which is on the TV or in the movie theater. It just gives people a chance to engage with content and to get them invested so they want to watch full-length programming.
I mean, also, I'm sure everyone on this panel, how many user-generated directed concepts have you seen where people are saying, okay, now we're going to take advantage of that big audience out there that wants to create something, we're going to kind of tell them to go do something and bring it back. I mean, I know I've got about 100 on my desk, and I'm sure you've seen the same things. I think you'll see that start to evolve as well, and how these two worlds really do work together. And I think that's the exciting point coming forward.
Well, that actually leads me to my next question. Probably several weeks ago, the LA Times had a front page story that they were calling, are we heading into a mini bubble with video and the internet? And just the slew of all these services and consumer services and things launching. And I guess I coupled that with, what is the monetization? What is the model, Jennifer? I mean, you brought it up, and Chad, you definitely have eyeballs, and MSN has eyeballs, HBO has eyeballs. I personally, I'm not a big believer in short form content as a real monetization value. My own personal belief, if it was that great, there'd be a cable channel with just short form content. But you could say it was MTV and they went to long form. But say I'm wrong, what is, are we in the mini bubble? Is there too many of these things coming right now? And if so, how are you going to survive through this, and how are you going to monetize this traffic?
I mean, I would say that it's actually, there's a couple ways to do it, and it's pretty traditional in the sense that it's advertising is going to be the main way that it's going to be done, and there's also the sort of download to own model, which iTunes and other sites such as Google have. And the advertising model is what's traditional to the media industry, and it's definitely not going to go away. And a lot of users want to watch content for free, but a lot of content owners only want their content out there if they can get monetization. So an ad-supported model certainly should be something that will work as long as it's a good user experience. And there's a lot of evidence that users do not like pre-roll ads. Ask yourself, do you like pre-roll ads? Do you like sitting through 15 seconds online? So if it can be figured out how to do advertising in a way that is not as intrusive, that works, that actually is relevant, then that's a way to sustain this industry, for sure.
Maybe because we're a premium subscription television service, we're not ad supported, this will sound like heresy for me to even comment on this topic. But I thought it might be helpful for the audience. The consumer only has a certain amount of time and a certain amount of money, so timeshare and wallet share. Actually, the time is more constrained because there's only 24 hours a day, you need to sleep, and different people have different incomes. So wallets are much more variable than time. If you look at the overall media landscape, and my numbers may be a little old, so analyst friends in the audience, please don't hold this against me. There's roughly $65 billion in TV advertising in the United States. Roughly half of it is national, half of it is local. The half that is national, it's roughly split 50-50 between the 5 networks and all major cable. The local, it's roughly $20 billion local TV, $5 billion cable. So that's your pie there. Download to own content is often talked about. And download to own content to me is basically analogous to the DVD window in an electronic form. And I'm not talking about when you get it, but just that activity in the market. DVD is roughly $20 billion in sell-through and rental combined. So that's starting to give you an outline of the world, right? And maybe a way to think about it is that it's not a bubble to those companies who can predict well enough the shifting sands of where that money is going to go based on consumer behavior. And that means that right now, for those who are following this, we're seeing a tremendous move from traditional TV advertising, I just gave you the dollars, to internet advertising, which is more in general described as accountable, targeted, and in effect a two-way medium. So if you can catch the right shift at the right time and you can be highly rewarded for it. Certainly the folks at MySpace, I'm sure Chad will be as well, and Google and Microsoft and us poor guys in this whole media world, we're still slogging it out. We're like wage slaves still. But if you catch it the right way, it can be very powerful for your company. To point out why the ad model is so topical right now, just again a framework and then I'll stop. The total internet advertising market last year was roughly $12 billion. It'll be somewhere by analyst predictions 14.5 this year. 60% of that is search. So if you take out the 60%, that leaves you with actually a very small number, somewhere in the range of, if I get it right, $4 to $6 billion that we're all fighting over here. Search is very powerful. It'll continue to grow. You'll do new things with it. That's great. But we're still talking about a very big industry. I should have bought the stock. Sorry, I didn't. I was a naysayer. I was wrong, so you shouldn't listen. But no, so I think this is a really critical point because we're all looking at how we shift consumer dollars from existing behaviors and existing pools. And so bubble, I don't think. A lot of competition, yes. Will a lot of people fall to the wayside? Yes. But I've convinced my bosses the wrong way if it is a bubble because I'm saying to HBO, let's get into ad-supported media. And so sorry for the long-winded response or just ramble, but I thought it would be good to sort of frame it so that when you hear folks talk about it up here, you'll have a context of what we're trying to think through as an industry together.
So Chad, how are you going to monetize?
How are we going to monetize? Yes, that's a big question, right? We're already making significant revenue, and we're introducing some pretty interesting concepts on how people can engage with brands because, you know, serving things based on relevance works great for search, but this is an entertainment experience where people are browsing many different types of videos, more in a way to waste time at work and a way to be entertained. And so it goes back to more traditional branding, advertising models where you have to look at ways to target users in terms of how you're targeting them towards demographics and not necessarily what they're viewing and what's on the page. So we're kind of looking at more ways that people can engage with advertising, and also in different ways, in ways that it's treated almost as content within our system. We think that's the best way to present ads to the users is that they can actually engage with advertising that they're watching, and it is not forced upon them. Like you were saying, in terms of video pre-rolls, we don't believe that's the best way to present ads to users. So that's how we see the market.
I can say that MSN Video was the first big site to create a free ad-supported video service back in January of 2004. So we believed in the advertising model for a long time, and we've seen all the hallmarks of success with it. Great CPMs, lots of streams on a monthly basis.
What kind of CPMs? This is cool.
Not at liberty to say, but I will say that they rival or beat television CPMs, which is great for people who are able to command that. And I think there's a bit of scarcity that's helping to drive that, which may go away over time, to be fair. But the other thing I'll say is that pre-roll advertising is just the beginning. I mean, I think the most exciting opportunities we're seeing with advertisers right now are for them to tastefully be woven into the programming itself. You look at what Mark Burnett has done on television and getting, tens of millions of people excited about watching, the infomercial that is The Apprentice and Survivor, and he's a master at it. And I think there's a model in that for all of us that if you tastefully weave advertising into the content itself, that's another way to fund your content.
So basically, it seems like consensus-wise, everyone's against pre-roll from a consumer experience. I mean, no, Chad, you don't do it on YouTube. MSN?
We do it, and I think we've done well with it.
Okay. And I'm sorry, on Google, are they any pre-roll?
Oh, we have not had pre-roll.
Okay. So, okay. All right, next question here. So, well, I guess I have a question for the group. It seemed like yesterday, very short yesterday, you had the AOLs, the GeoCities, the Friendsters, the NBCs of the world being kind of aggregators of eyeballs. Now it's Google, MySpace, YouTube, HBO, certainly as a network, surpassing NBC on any given night. these new companies seem to come from nowhere. Whether it's YouTube, it's only a year old or so, or Google's 4 or 5 years old. Is there another new aggregator coming? Is it based on the consumer experience that really drives this, or is it a technology, or is it some kind of combination?
I think it's a combination, and part of it is experience, and also just providing a solution to users that they didn't necessarily know that they were missing. And we came at this as just a way of from our personal frustration of just sharing videos with each other, and it's definitely surpassed our expectations. But I think there's other companies in Silicon Valley right now working in garages that are coming up with new things that no one has ever thought of. So it's not going to.
I would agree. I mean, history repeats itself, and this is one we've seen. I mean, you got to think someone's out there. I think, as we talked a little bit, the mobile space is still totally wide open, and when you really start to take advantage of what that platform can present to you in the form of content and participation, definitely think something's going to come out of that. And when you combine that with a great broadband or internet experience, so I mean, I think there's a lot of room for kind of new types of companies to develop.
There was major heartburn in Redmond, Washington, when we realized that MySpace was the most popular website by visits on the web, and that YouTube was serving 100 million videos a day. I mean, I think those kinds of things really wake you up. But I'll also just point out that it's not just about the content. I mean, audience is attracted to other things on the web, some very tactical things like checking your mail or using your instant messenger. And one of the things we're trying to do is figure out how to weave that all together, so it's not just about creating the next hit that people want to come see, but what can we show you while you're doing the other things you do online.
Is that important? I'll follow up with Jennifer and Google, because certainly Google has that model of Gmail and other things. Is it important today, in today's internet age, to be everything for everybody? Or, do people just get around the net enough that you don't need to be that?
I mean, I would say, again, it's really about helping people find what they're looking for, whatever that means and wherever they are. And so I think Google specifically is focused very much on comprehensiveness, and each of the things you do at different points of the day is about some form of information, whether it's your email or IM, you're communicating with someone, or it's a video, a textual web search, a map, a local information about where you're going to pick up, carry out. It's all just different forms of information. So if you can help the user find all of those things, that's for us what it's really about. It's not creating any of that content. It's really much being the technology that leads people to find what they're looking for.
Yeah, but I think it's hard to become everything to everyone. There's a lot of power in brands, and I believe ourselves and MySpace had an opportunity to focus on one thing and do that as best as we could for the users, and that's why we had a tremendous response. We were able to focus on a solution.
Okay. Louis mentioned briefly mobile, and while today I think everyone agrees broadband to the PC is really here, it's growing, it's kind of gotten over that hump, pretty much in the US at least, it's majority, and of course in Far East it's super majority. But mobile is around the corner, and phones and devices are getting much more sophisticated. Is there a mobile content strategy for these companies up here? I mean, how important is that? And is it the same experience, or are you looking to alter your experience? And how are you planning to alter that experience for mobile?
I can give you a content creator perspective, and I put us in the creator category. We're not the end creator, but we're a packager and marketer. We actually set up production companies to build shows along with our partners, obviously in the agency business and who we know in the market. But HBO's taken a very novel approach, I think, given that we're actually a very constrained operator in the overall TV space. And what I mean by that is you hear a lot about HBO, there's a lot of buzz, and it's certainly the most profitable TV network in the world. But on the other hand, it doesn't produce that much content. We really program one night a week, which means we don't have that much to repurpose and put into the mobile space for a 2-inch screen, which has many consumer constraints around it. The screens will get bigger as batteries and power consumption, batteries get better and power consumption goes down. But so we're taking a novel approach for an HBO, maybe it's not novel for HBO, but novel in the sense of we're producing brand new content for the mobile platform. Right now we have a relationship with Singular. It's a starting point for us to expand down the road to basically see what works on a mobile platform, not just in a repurposing, give me short clips to catch up and maybe news and sports, which is really very nice to snack on a mobile platform, but what's going to be the type of 2 to 3 minute experience, maybe getting longer down the road, that's going to really enthrall somebody? Is it a parallel line of narrative, somewhat like you've seen out of Lost and what ABC's done there? Is it something that really is a brand new narrative conceit that we haven't thought of, and maybe our friends in the agency business working with their suppliers and the people that they represent will come up with? But really we're pushing right now into spending money on originally produced programming for mobile. So mobile originals. It's a big experiment. Don't know that it'll work. We know people carry their phones in a lot of places, and that's exciting. And I think we have to go there as a producer. And hopefully, somewhere along the way, somebody will succeed, whether it's at HBO or elsewhere, in original content for mobile, because I think a lot of people are getting pretty tired of looking at the Vcast experience or the Mobi TV experience. And after a few months, it sort of just doesn't deliver what they're looking for.
What I think you'll see Microsoft try to do over the next few years is enable you to bring your content to the various platforms. Mobile's one of them. It's part of your life. But you also sit in front of your television, and we have an Xbox, and we have a Windows Media Center PC that we hope people will hook up to their televisions. And you have what's on your desktop. And I think the ability to move stuff around to the various places you want to be. Look at what Slingbox is doing just in a small way. It's very exciting. That's possibly the holy grail, and so mobile is a part of that for us.
Are you bringing your service to mobile? Are you taking your service, what you offer today, and kind of transfiguring it to mobile?
In a limited way. It's mostly about functionality, messenger and mail and basic data. I think frankly, mobile content isn't a nut that we've cracked yet or even worked very hard to crack. But then when we go over to Europe or Asia and we see the way they use mobile, it's so incredibly different than the way we do. And it's such a big part of their lives that it almost makes you wonder if it's not around the corner for us.
I can comment just from the talent perspective. We're seeing in just development now, when we have our clients create concepts for network studios, you name it, they're building these elements into the concept, whether it's for broadband and for mobile, building how the consumer can participate on those platforms as well. And so they're actually trying to pull all these things together and make them work together. And I think you're just going to see a lot more of that. I know that certain networks, NBC has definitely seen the advantages of mobile around certain shows like Deal No Deal, and there's a revenue stream there that makes a lot of sense. I think we've seen a lot of ideas that I think you'll see in the next year where people are actually more, it's not a sweepstakes they're playing, they're actually participating in affecting the content. I think you'll start to see that more. So, we are just from the creators, and sometimes we see some of this at the very beginning stages because then we take those ideas and we take them to these networks. But we're seeing the creators look at all these platforms and how they work together.
Yeah, and we see it as a big opportunity too, but on the YouTube side. We feel our content is kind of a perfect fit for the mobile platform in terms of bite-sized pieces of content. But interface is going to be key, and we're looking at the options of how we can introduce YouTube to the mobile side, and it's a big question if you enable people to find everything, or is it just a subset of the information or the videos on our site? We're just looking at all those options, but it's just another opportunity for people to interact with video and engage them and have them interact and share video clips with each other.
But today, if someone has a video-enabled phone, they could actually shoot something and post it on YouTube.
Yeah, we have an upload process through MMS, and as the networks improve, their networks, and also just the quality of the cameras on the phones, you're going to see the quality from these cameras just increase. Right now, it's not that exciting to watch a pixelated video from a cell phone, but you know, there's going to be more and more opportunities for people to take video content, not only for entertainment purposes, but more from kind of a journalist, kind of citizen journalism aspect. There's going to be a lot more people on the ground with phones when, you know, an event happens and have an opportunity to take this video. So it'll just open up new doors for distribution for that content.
Jennifer, Google Video?
I mean, I'm sorry, but I think before people have already answered it, someone actually turn the question around a little bit.
Sure.
And say that I think that the question that I think we're thinking about a lot, in addition to mobile, is really the connection to the living room. I mean, I think mobile use is definitely interesting, but I think right now everyone's watching stuff on the PC. What is it going to look like when you can watch it on your television in the living room? I mean, I think that is going to be explosive in terms of what happens with video and how it works with traditional media companies, how it works with user-generated content, how it gets to the next level of whatever that is in terms of interactivity. So while I think mobile is sort of, it's an interesting question, I don't think the results in the near term are going to be nearly as spectacular as what's going to happen when it gets on the television.
Unfortunately, Michael, who's not here, that's what he's doing with AT&T and IPTV. That'd be the next
Working hard at it.
But I guess, you know, following up on that, we've all been in the space a long time. We all, you know, heard when broadband's coming. When are we going to get to the TV? We have Microsoft with the Xbox. Obviously, that's a connection to the TV. You know,
It really hasn't been a long
PC.
time. It hasn't been that long of a time. I mean, I think it feels like it's been a long time because people have been talking about video for a while, but what has really happened in terms of a lot of people watching video has been what, in the past year, the past, you know, 6 months it's really kicked up. That's a year to 6 months. Starting, I see like one of the seminal moments was the iTunes announcement, the first deal they did with ABC. That was really sort of a turning point. And what's happened since then has been spectacular, but it's been a really short period of time. So I think it's not just about what users want and the content, but the technologies involved here are quite complex. And so I think that, you know, I would say we've all done a lot of work and we still have a lot of progress to make, but I think that there's probably a level of patience that's necessary in the sense that there's huge appetite for this, but to figure it all out is going to be complicated.
The other thing is you raise a lot of thorny issues when all of a sudden the internet content is being piped directly to the TV, because then you're in more direct competition with the traditional TV companies. Mm-hmm. And I know that we're looking at ways to bring content to the TV in a big way. And I think over the next 12 months, as Windows Vista launches and as the Xbox becomes not just a gaming machine, but very much a media machine, hopefully that'll help. But I'm also seeing a lot of technology companies, TV manufacturers, et cetera, starting to build, you know, basically IP input right into the television set. So I think this is the year for that, and at least for the beginning of it, in a big way.
I think on the content side, what you'll see is sort of a long transition. Just so you guys know, we're in obviously the heart of Silicon Valley. HBO or any other major TV network, even if they own their programming, can't just distribute it over the internet, the open cloud of the internet, to a device without securing the appropriate rights for the music in the programming, if there is music. And most major TV has music that is produced by professional artists who are part of music unions and the like. It's very expensive. So I think what you'll see is much, and Michael isn't here, but the home zone product that AT&T has and others are the Akimbo box you may have heard about, which will allow you to take content that's in the, call it the stack of the internet, and port it to a TV environment. And so that would be stuff that you would see, for example, on MovieLink, Cinema Now, Akimbo. That's already been pre-cleared for the distribution rights of the internet. It'll take longer to see something like, you know, if it were the case that we could syndicate Sex and the City across the internet and not have it go to Turner and then Tribune and the like. It'll take a lot longer because we have to pay a huge amount of money to clear the music rights for that. And actually, it's something that we all deal with in the creative community. There are 3 unions, the WGA, DGA, and SAG. Did I forget anybody? AFTRA, sorry, who hold a lot of sway in this discussion as well, beyond music. So it's something to watch, because that's, I think, a gating issue in terms of when professionally produced content comes from an internet genesis to the TV, as opposed to just routing it like a cable operator would.
I can comment right now on the deals that we're doing, whether it be in TV features or what have you, that believe me, these conversations about rights are taking place right at the deal side right now, and with the vision that these platforms will become available and the content will go through these platforms. But to your point, it's difficult. It's a difficult process, but so some of the library content becomes cumbersome, but things moving forward, I can tell you people are starting to make these changes, and the contracts have changed considerably.
Louis, did the music writers and publishers know, going way back, that they would be able to create this incredible chokehold on the development of and the extension of content onto the internet, or was there some conspiracy where they got together?
Yeah, if they did, they definitely want to ask more up front. No, I mean, this is just one of the things that, that has happened, and it's kind of like, God, to go do that, this is what we have to go through. These are the hurdles we have to jump through.
Well, it's going back to the TV and getting content to that TV, and I think that's the ultimate user-consumer experience. And I know personally, I've never really seen a good consumer IP TV experience. I mean, maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. What would that service have to be able to do? How would you guys, if you could, if you're going to bring Google Video to the IPTV, or you're going to bring YouTube, you can't offer all the things you offer today, because that's the PC experience. So what's the IPTV experience then like?
Can I give you my fantasy?
Sure.
Well, let's not go too far there. Might get a little strange.
We're in San Jose.
Here's my fantasy, and I think really it's not. You have to remember what's going on with, for example, anybody using the Microsoft platform for IPTV. That is utilizing IPTV to bring a experience. It's a managed video experience to the television. Managed video means that there's a end-to-end service provider. It's not taking video out over the internet. It's just using IP protocol, like a cable operator right now uses digital or analog technologies to bring video to the TV screen, where satellite uses a satellite and MPEG-2 compression to do the same. But my fantasy experience would be something where you really, I watch people out there in the audience and in the world using their computers and being able to search and being able to find content that I'm interested in. And then if, for example, I had a schematic of my living room, or just being able to, drag and drop a piece of video so that what's on my wall is just a large display device, like a TV screen. I find it on the internet, whatever it might be, sold through a professional provider, or maybe it's one of Chad's folks who bring it up there, or who put it up. I slide it from that onto my TV, and it does a transcode for the resolution that I need on my TV set. It delivers it to my TV. Or I want to take it with me on a mobile device. I slide it into my media library to be able to take out, wherever I need to go, whatever device I want to put it on to go. And it helps me authenticate the rights that I need for that. It maybe does a barter system, or takes it off of my bill at the end of the month. And that would be a really neat experience where communication and the video come together with the device in a seamless way.
And interactivity is what's so exciting about this. We're trying to bring entertainment and interactivity together today on the desktop, basically. We have a new original program called Fan Club, where a professional baseball team was crazy enough to let our audience manage it. The way you play fantasy baseball and pick your batters and pitchers and stuff. We're creating a show now with Live Planet on MSN, where the audience gets to make those decisions. They watch a little reality video segment about the team, and they make their decisions who should bat and pitch. And it's an advertiser-supported thing. It's a cool original project. But what would be extremely cool is if you were able to watch this kind of program on your television set, watch the game, and in real time you could vote and make decisions on when you should take the relief pitcher out. That kind of thing. I mean, I just think interactivity in general is what, in addition to the kinds of portability and search capabilities and the other stuff you're hearing today, it's the interactivity that will make internet in the television so exciting.
And I think the biggest piece to having kind of this experience take off with the consumers is ease of use. I don't think anyone's really introduced a really easy to use service. I'm sure Apple's working on it right now, but it's something that wouldn't make regular consumers think. They'd just be able to plug something in and it would just work. I think we have a long way to go. I think and the bigger issue, yes, there's a lot of rights issues in terms of how this video is going to be distributed, and is that kind of a TV model, or is it more of an internet model in terms of the rights that are being dealt with? So.
Yeah, I would just say, I agree, it's ease of use and cost also. I bought a Gateway destination machine in 1999, and it was incredible. 50-inch monitor sitting there in your living room, and the ability to do picture-in-picture television and surf the net and do all that at the same time. It's there. We've seen glimpses of it. It needs to get a little bit better. The cost needs to come down. And obviously there's still some technology issues that have to be worked out and make it more affordable to the consumer. But it's powerful, and I can't wait.
Okay. I'll open it up to a few questions, and I, of course, have more questions for this great group, and of course, you guys have any. So anyone has a question in the audience, raise your hand, and I ask that you please identify yourself and then pose a question. There's not a single question. Okay, there we go. I'm sorry, identify yourself, please.
What's the...
Are you press? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks. With?
Press.
Okay.
What is what would the panelists think is the single most competitive model that runs counter to all of the discussion so far about the viability of Hollywood produced content?
Can you rephrase the
Yeah.
question?
Sorry. Yeah, please.
So the single most competitive business model?
Yeah, what do you think is the single most competitive business model that may come along that would run counter to pretty much everything you guys have said today?
I've got one of them. Someone has pitched me on something really interesting, which I share with you now for an unknown reason. But it's auction based, and it was really fascinating the way they think that.
Was it Meg Whitman? She talked to you? I'm sorry.
And the idea is simply you look at the growth of the home shopping network and the way eBay is everywhere and it's so popular, and there must be some interesting way to pay for content through small transactions that people are willing to bid on and make. That's something that's very different from what we've talked about today. It wouldn't require any advertising or any subscriptions or anything like that.
I think one of the things we've thought about is, we have several clients who look at these platforms and say, great, I can create a piece of content now, I can distribute it everywhere. But obviously you're missing financing and you're missing marketing, very two important pieces. And so, the financing piece can sometimes take care of itself, but the marketing piece is very, very important. So a model for it to develop whereby people could create content and go direct, but there was a marketing system behind that. Obviously for some of our clients who just think that what they create, that a lot of people want to see, but they just need to get people to hear about it, that would be interesting.
Well, that's kind of what the traditional studios were about, financing and marketing.
Absolutely.
And distribution, but...
And distribution.
So you say that distribution's already handled,
Yep.
but the financing and marketing is still kind of out there.
Yeah, and when we look at some of this content, this is why some of our creators are posting things on YouTube as well, is that they're like, hey, I got cameras, I can go out and shoot my friends and create something and put it up there. This content in some forms are not that expensive. You can create fairly cheap content that's still very good, but it's that marketing piece. Because in that scenario, they're willing to bet on themselves, and a lot of our clients are willing to bet on themselves. They don't need that big up front if they think that what they're creating, people are going to want, and they'll pay for it, and there's a back-end model. So, the more that can happen, the better.
Okay. Oh, now we got lots of questions. Okay.
I work for a company called IndiePlay, and we're building an online rights licensing marketplace. We also have some managed tools that go along with that. My question is, right now, rights are defined along the lines of territory and distribution channel. Do you see that kind of evolving into territory and based kind of similar to DRM, or whether something else lost on that?
I hope not. It gets so complicated at that point. A lot of us have IP ways of restricting certain territories, but when you get down to the level of device, if you think about it and you just put it on scale, and you have, millions of pieces of content, and each one of them is in a different territory and a different, device, it gets really unwieldy. So, I mean, I think that, Louis can speak to this more than I can, but it would seem that many people are trying to do content deals now that are worldwide rights, inclusive of everything, including all devices. The internet is worldwide, so to limit it just really is sort of counter to the medium.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, another question. Right there.
Scott Kirshner from Classic Company, thanks. I guess one question is, it seems like you guys and other panels have talked about short form being sort of the widely consumed content on the internet right now, including on YouTube. Maybe this is for Louis and Ira and others. Do you see a lot of established creative people who are saying now, how do we create cool 3 to 5 minute videos? Or does it seem like they're kind of still locked into the idea of creating 30 and 60 minute TV shows and 90 minute feature films?
Oh no, I mean we have a lot of clients, and we have a lot of clients too that come out of short film and things like that. And so we have a lot of clients who have created and are creating short form content. I think we're also kind of waiting to see, is it just short form? Is this going to be a new format? Or as soon as the technology and the capability allows for people to do long form, that's going to be really what we're looking at. But to answer your question, yes, they're creating short form content as well as long form content.
And I think it's just creating a new market. It's not necessarily content that is specifically short form. It's the extra material, perhaps that would be on a DVD. It's the bloopers, some exclusive footage, and also giving opportunity to the actors to engage the audience and talk to them on a personal level.
I would say that too, and Joe said it several times here, interactivity. I think, short form content, if it's still just linear content, right? I mean, to really take advantage of these platforms, I think you do want to build interactivity into it in some place so people can participate with it. So I think that's another key.
Another little twist is if you're a storyteller, you typically don't like to tell very short stories. So it's aspirational that people who are great storytellers often start doing 30-second commercials. They graduate to music videos, which are usually other people's stories, and then they go to longer form. So the point that both Louis and Chad were making, I think, is really interesting. Whether it becomes its own genre conceit and its own sort of goal-oriented thing for creators to go to short form, or they stay long-form storytellers. So I think that's there'll be some sort of balance that'll have to be struck over time.
And I think we would agree that what's really, you can add to this, it's kind of comedy is what's really working. And comedy can be and has from its roots can be very short. And so I think that's what you're seeing work a lot today. I'm just curious to see how that moves forward in other genres. But comedy can be very short and still work very well.
But it's just not comedy, it's also communication. Just, one of our most recent stars on YouTube is a 79-year-old man that it's just talking to people about his life's experiences. And, in a way, it's just kind of reality television, and people have a chance to engage and talk to him on a personal level.
One thing I was going to say is Google's saying not just short form. Actually, a lot of the services just have short form comedy, or short form content, so it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But Google doesn't have limits on what you can upload, and what we are finding is there's certain topics where long form content is doing very well. Global issues, documentaries, news-based information. So it's not so much entertainment. Is definitely getting a lot of play for long form content.
The one thing I wanted to add to that is I think people, when they think about the length of content to create for the internet, are looking at it primarily through 2 filters. The content creators who have rights, like television rights and that kind of thing, they're thinking about, well, if I distribute more than a 2-minute clip, I've got to pay the talent more. I can't give you too long a bite. So I think that's why, a large part of why you've seen so much short form content to date. But the other filter is that people are thinking about it mostly in terms of something you watch on your computer screen and they want a little snack at their coffee break. But I firmly believe, and MSN firmly believes, in the power of something longer than what you're seeing today. When you get the right people creating for that medium with the right interactivity, you're going to see stuff that is powerful, I think, that's not short form at all.
Well, I think iTunes Video is kind of proving, I don't have the numbers, I don't know if anyone up here has the numbers, how many millions of videos they're selling of TV episodes. But, I mean, they're doing quite a bit. And more, do you know the numbers?
It's something like 15 million since they launched at $1.99.
I guess
and they only launched, it's full TV.
And, I mean, granted, there's a device with that, but I don't think it's the device that's driving that as much as people's TiVos or whatever are messing up, you know. In case my wife, she missed Lost, and, you know, that's where she watched it. But I guess to follow up on that question, I don't know if you guys will chat or you'll talk to this. What percentage of your videos are over 5 minutes being served, and what percentage are below? Are we talking generalities like that, or is it confidential?
Well, we're seeing on our site, it's kind of the sweet spot is around 30 seconds to 2.5 minutes long for the majority of the people who
That's
content.
majority.
Yeah.
2.5 minutes.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's a great piece of content, I mean, it doesn't have to be short. You know, we're kind of, you know, a little different than Google in the way that they're developing a service and selling a product, and we're really building a community around video, so it creates a different experience for the users when they're engaging with us.
I'd like to just give a specific example. Mark Burnett Productions has a show called Rockstar Supernova that's on CBS. And we want to do something really bold and crazy, so we said, you have 3 nights of television that you do. Why don't you bring one of them exclusively to MSN? It's a 22-minute show. And so they'll watch the first night of TV on MSN, and then the other 2 nights they watch on CBS. And we were terrified that people, since it's broken into acts, we were really afraid that people would just drop off significantly after the first act. They couldn't handle long-form content, basically. But we've been getting, for this 22-minute program, we've been getting essentially cable TV network-sized audiences on a weekly basis. That's people staying through 22 minutes. So when you're good at creating content, you know, people will watch.
And that's streaming or download? Or
That's streamed.
Streaming.
Someone
Sitting
will
there,
watch. Yeah.
not taking it with them.
Ad-supported with pre-roll advertising.
Okay. I'm going to go to the back. Oh, okay, I got it. All right, in the middle there.
So I was wondering.
Name, please, and-
Oh, sorry, Hamilton Helmer of Strategy Capital. So each of the panelists is sort of coming at the different piece of the elephant here. And I was curious to hear their comments on sort of a negative question, which where's the friction coming from? What worries you the most? What are showstoppers that you see that prevent the type of adoption that we're talking about here?
So what worries you in terms of your building the ultimate service for consumers? Okay, that's a good question.
The
Anyone wanna take
legal
that?
system. It's just, it can't keep up with the rate of change. And it's interesting, we talk about the contracts that Lewis really, you know, is spearheads in the world of working with talent and working with networks. And there are just parts of them that, you know, are option value in those contracts in terms of, and I don't mean in the Hollywood sense, I mean in the financial sense of courts are going to, you know, come down in certain ways on certain issues around copyright, around talent and the ability to form unions around content. I think it's a real limiting factor. You know, it produces a lot of friction. It doesn't keep me up at night to the extent that we have a current business that's very profitable, and the networks in general are still very profitable. Everybody on this panel works for a company that's, you know, dynamic and is still in the game. Actually, the AT&T guy's not here, so that's okay. But the legal system is. I actually worked for AT&T last year, so I can say that. But I think that's a big issue.
Other spots of friction?
Yeah, I mean, on our side, that's what we're seeing too, just in terms of rights. I mean, we've started as a personal solution. Now we're working with professional content creators. So how do we build technology and control what the community is doing? I mean, we feel like we've come a great, long way. We still have a long way to go. We've been really proactive in reaching out to content owners, but at the end of the day, they're really excited about what we're doing, and they want to find ways to work together. And we're making a lot of great progress. But yeah, when it comes down to some pieces of their content, they would love to distribute it across the internet, but they have to talk to so many people to get the rights. I think it's a bigger rights issue than just what they're dealing with.
I'd say 2 of the words that keep me up at night are YouTube. They're doing a great job in attracting major audiences.
All right, we got time for a couple more questions, and unfortunately then we're going to have to wrap it up, so we'll go right there.
Fred Dawson, Screenplays Magazine. I want to come back to John Payne's fantasy. I was surprised at how much energy is generated from the panelists on the question of getting this TV set. But that fantasy won't work with that big screen size, wall size screen, unless something happens with bandwidth way beyond the best effort. So this gets into a question about, is one of these next business models somebody, one of you or somebody else comes along and says, okay, we're going to buy that bandwidth, get into the home and deliver a really TV, HD quality, web-based service, which then would be kind of the next generation.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately Michael's not here, but I think that's exactly what the AT&T guys are trying to build. I don't know if
Well, I'm
Louis-
talking about web-originated video. AT&T isn't building that.
But they're building the fiber to the home,
Well,
new delivery.
I see where you're going. I mean, I think that this is, I mean,
But it's
just,
a bandwidth question.
No, it's-
You're going to be offering your web on the best effort basis.
yeah, that's absolutely right. So to the point that we're hearing, and this is another one keeps you up at night sort of thing, if you think about these things all the time, which is that to deliver basically really good, sort of almost DVD, really good, not extraordinary, almost DVD-like quality on a TV screen that's, it could be a PC screen, but something larger than, let's call it 20 inches. You have to do like 1.5 megabits a second in an MPEG-4 world, which is the newest sort of generation of compression. That'll get better, but you're still there. And that's, it's not cheap when you start stringing it up and not multicasting it, and it just gets really expensive. But when you leap to HD, which is almost the experience we're sort of accustomed to now with really good DVD on a fairly large screen, your best sort of world today is about 9 to 10 megabits a second with an MPEG-4 compression scheme. That's a lot of bandwidth. So that's why you see most of the businesses that people are talking about for really high quality video over the internet to the TV being download businesses. So they come overnight, or they come in what would be called a progressive download use case, and you would be able to watch it that way. I think this is a good point. The United States is relatively bandwidth constrained at the last mile. Cable really isn't, but has to do a bunch of things to become, I think, a little bit more open in terms of their pipe, so that we can see a lot of these things take off. But until then, I think there's so much that we all have to sort out in terms of the communications and interactive functionality, that once we get that sort of more worked out as a multi-platform experience, hopefully someone will come along, maybe from Eastern Europe with a really great math mind, and figured out a better compression scheme or something like that to get video that is really high quality across the internet. But I think it's a while coming. I think it's a very good question.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank our panelists today. It was a very interesting discussion. I thank everyone for good questions.